So we're joined today on Highland League Weekly by former Devon Vale, Cove Rangers, Inverurie Locos and Banks AD striker and former Banks AD manager as well, Jamie Watt. He's the latest Highland League figure to be telling us about his most memorable game. So first of all, Jamie, which game have you chosen as your most memorable?
How we doing, Colin? So there's quite a few in the memory bank, but I think thinking back over the years, for me it was probably the game that involved, it was cup final, the old qualifying cup for the Scottish Cup, and it was Devon Vale v Buckie. Always sticks in my mind, that one. Just, I think the thing about that trophy was it was so hard to get to that, even the semi-final stage, because a lot of the boys nowadays probably wouldn't even have heard of it, but to get to into the Scottish Cup proper, you had to get to the semi-finals. So just to start, all the teams that were in it, and then try to get to the semi-final alone was a very tough task. Back in those days, a lot of strong teams, and obviously for the clubs it was a big financial game for them to get to that stage. So every club was fighting hard to get to that semi-final stage, and I think I'd 2 or 3 failed attempts before that, but that year we got past the semi-final, went one better into the final, and then we had our big rivals, Buckie at the time, and they were obviously pretty strong. And I never realised when I went to the Vale how big that derby was. And back in those days, we used to play the league games over Christmas, so everyone would be home, and you'd get 1,500, 2,000 of a crowd at both games. It used to be fantastic derbies, and always tight. Never, it was always like one goal in it. But that day, we turned up and put on a show, and we ended up coming away 5-1 in the game. It was really memorable game, that one.
With what you're saying there, and plenty of people watching this, I'm sure, will ken about the qualifying cup, but some maybe win it, because obviously now the Highland League teams get into the first round of the Scottish Cup, Jamie, and it's like back then, especially maybe if you weren't going to necessarily challenge for the league, was because of the chance of getting into the Scottish Cup, was the qualifying cup potentially the biggest games you played our season back then?
I would say so, yeah. For a lot of clubs it was like that. I mean, that was when I think probably by that time Peterhead maybe had left, but when I first came in you had Peterhead, Elgin, a lot of strong teams in there, and you're right, it was always that opportunity. And I think that year, possibly, I can't remember quite how after it was, but Keith had obviously got Rangers. That game wasn't far after that, so you seen that happening, and I think that was the romance of it for everyone to try and get, because back then it was the third round. If you got into the third round proper, you could pull a Premier League team. So yeah, I was so much went with it, but it just, as you say, there was only the league, which at that point I think we were building towards that, but we had a strong team. But yeah, the success was brilliant.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned obviously that game that you beat Buckie 5-1 at Kynoch Park in Keith, and I imagine beforehand, well, you obviously got a couple of goals on the day, which I'm sure you'll tell us about, but I imagine beforehand you couldn't have ever thought you would win as convincingly as that.
No, that's right. I think there was a few factors. Like I say, it was always a tough game. I think Scotty Anderson, and I think Big Kev at the back those days, so they were pretty solid. And I think Mikey Ray was in goals, if I remember, good goalie back in the day, and always had a good tussle with him. But yeah, we started the game. I think I scored the first one, put us up 1-0. I'm pretty sure it was that stage I went through cleaning goal, and Scotty decided to just give me a wee clip from behind, 1-on-1, last man. So down I went, and he got sent off. So that probably helped in terms of the result that day. But before he even got up the tunnel, Moby had stuck it in the top corner for the free kick, as he does. So just to wind him right up, and from then on we were brilliant. That first half is one of the best performances we've put in. Second half, the usual, wasn't so much in the second half, and it was petered out to a 5-1. I'd scored 2. I always remember, I think it was the last minute, and my pal Yogi, Paul Luckett, they were obviously pushing, and we went through 1-on-1. It was me and Yogi, and I'm beside him running through, and Yogi was notorious for passing. He never wanted to score, and I thought, oh, here we go, I've got my hat-trick. I'm running at the side, Mikey Ray's coming out, and he's just got to knock it to me. 90th minute, got hat-trick hero, Nah, Yogi gives Mikey the eyes and puts it in the side net, and so he never lived that one down. I was raging with him, standing in the middle waiting for a tap in, and he's like, well, it was 5-1. So yeah, I didn't get my hat trick at the end, but he got a bit of abuse. But nah, the celebrations and everything went. That was at a time when we were starting to collect a few trophies. So yeah, it was always a big night after and great celebration.
Aye, well, I was going to say I think it was a year after at Devonville you won the league and things, so you were on the right track. But at that time as well, with the qualifying cup, it was only the second time Vale had won it, and it was the first time in 50 years. So I can imagine you're on about the celebrations. There'd been a lot of people. That had been a huge deal to win that trophy.
Yeah, it really was. Obviously, Greg, big impact when he went in there. Greg Carroll, and brought a lot of good young players, and just seemed to, at that time, get a lot of players that was the right fit. We all came together really well. But it started with the Aberdeenshire Cup at Balmoor when we beat Fraserburgh in the first cup final, and I noticed then how much it meant to just the community, the Banff, the supporters. It was really growing, and we just took off from there. But yeah, before that, hardly any success. I think it was like 50 years since Devon and Vale had really done anything Highland League wise, so I was just lucky to come in at, I think I was 18, 19 when I signed for Vale, so I just came in at the right times it was building. But I started when they were, I think, bottom 4, bottom 5 when I came in, so I was there with the harder times in the first couple of seasons, but it kept building, and as you say, ended up with two league trophies and a few other trophies in the bank, so it was great times back then, and we were all pals, and just great bunch of boys. Plenty of stories to tell from those days.
Well, I was going to say, we've spoken about your most memorable game, but was there any other games maybe come close to being chosen, or was there any other memorable stories you would pick out that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was a lot of good times with Cove. It's weird. It's like 2 years for me, because the first part was Devon and Vale and bringing all that success, and you go to Cove and we won 3 titles with Cove. So I mean, again, there's so many memories there. But I think Cove was a bit of a juggernaut then, and we'd won a league before obviously me going, and we just continued that, trying to get the Scottish leagues. But back in the Vale days, I would say personally, for me personally, there was the biggest game for me that stands out was we went to Fraserburgh and Belsley. Second game of the season, I think it was a cup game. It definitely was a cup game. And I'd scored 4 in the first game with Fort William. I'd scored 4. And then we went to Belsley next week, and I scored 6. It was just bizarre. We beat them 8-0, and it was a year for us, but I won the league. But Billy Gordon in goals, and everything I hit was just unbelievable. I met Belsley, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm just banging in goals every time it came to me. And so personally, that was it was just a surreal sort of experience. Just scoring 6 goals there. I've never done that again in the Highland League, and it's just one of that days where you just kind of miss every run you make. A ball's follow you, you're just flicking things in, and so that was definitely personally the best game I've had. And then off the back of that, your old pal Dave Edwards, he was there reporting the game, and he never lets this story go, because the end of the game, they're announcing the man of the match. So that's one game I'm thinking, I've got this one tied up. You're hearing it, even though I'm at Belsley, surely they're not going to give it to a Fraserburgh player. But they called out and they gave it to my strike partner, Mike McKenzie. And I'm like, I thought surely 6 goals against Billy Gordon's worthy of a man of them, but no, Mike got it, and he was like, deserved it. You only so that was a bit of a funny one. And then I think around about that time as well, another memorable game, which isn't so much football related, but with a trip up to Wick. I think it might have been that season as well, went up to Wick, and they were always, like, you go up there, you get a game in, it's always looking forward to the drinks coming back and the bus. But we came in, and I think I got sub late in that game, so I went in, I'm in quite early, just sitting down. So I never took much notice, and boys start coming in, and they're like, where's my gear? Where's your... We're all looking around, and we had suits back in that day. So we went up in suits to Wick, nice and comfy, obviously. Blue shirts, big blazers, horrendous. Greg made it happen, but boys are missing their suits and trousers, and like everyone's looking around. But I'm sitting in mine. But I came in the Wick changing room. I'm in the left, so I'm like in the far corner. So my stuff's okay. And then before we know it, we've realised that some young lads have come in. They've come in the back door and Wick through the changing room. Did you know that? Round the back of the changing room. They came in and they've grabbed everybody's gear and shot off up the road. So they've ended up taking all the wallets, phones. It's not funny at the time, but it's funny to look back on. And then they actually went to, so we've obviously come in after the games. There was about 8 or 9 boys haven't even got any gear. They're like, so they're still in their football gear, and we're trying to figure out what's happened. So before we know it, they'd found half the suits had been thrown not far from the pitch. So they were into I think it was like an electricity box up at the top. So they got thrown, but everyone's wallets were gone, money was gone. So all the boys like, so we had to stay back and wait for about 3 hours while the police sort of came in about it. And then eventually, Rob Brown, I think, was the only one never got his suit back. So he just had to go up the road and he's spit big gear. And I think it was about 3 in the morning before we got back to Aberdeen. So that one was memorable for a different reason, that one. I was alright, I had all my stuff, so I wasn't too bothered.
Well, I certainly wasn't sure how far you were gone with that story, but as you say, not good at the time, but funny to look back on now.
Yeah, no, it was like I said, but I think we still made the most of it coming up the road, so.
The thing is now, if you'd ever gotten a HUD or if I ever took the stuff, you know, if Rob Brown had gotten a HUD of them, you wouldn't have really wanted to mess with him, would you?
Rob Brown, Kerry Gilbert, and Rusty, there was a few boys in that team you certainly wouldn't want to get in the wrong side of. So, no, it was just bizarre. They came in and all the suits were going. You're like, oh my god! They came in the back door. They've got like a bit through the back and took their chance.
Well, Jamie, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to hear some of those stories. So thank you for being on Highland League Weekly.
No, but Callum, thanks for inviting us on, pal.